All right, guys, we're live. Hey, Megan. Hey, Brian.
What up?
Hey, guys.
How's everyone doing today?
Doing.
Doing.
I'm doing.
That's
I'm
all I
doing
can say.
good.
Doing.
You're doing.
Well,
How are
doing
you
is
doing?
better than. I'm fine. I mean, I'm on a day 5 of a long road trip with my family, so it's a little,
Sounds amazing.
yeah,
It's
it's
a
really
lot.
fun, but it's a lot. I just had to do the thing where I got everyone's clothes and washed everything, and then now I'm trying to repack everything, for the next 3 days. It's just nobody tells you this sort of stuff, that it's, a lot of work and kind of hard. Does anyone tell you that?
This is true. No.
I don't know. Sounds magical, honestly, to me right now. I would kill for that, but it definitely comes with its challenges. I agree.
Well, I got to meet your kids, RJ, and they're pretty charming. So, from an outsider's perspective, you've got it pretty good.
That's very nice of you to say. Really nice of you to say.
It was really fun. They showed up at our HF Pod happy hour. And unlike Tom Marshall, they
did.
were super chill and enjoyed it.
I haven't seen RJ's kids
okay.
in years, but my sentiment around them is exactly what you said. Just absolutely amazing, agreeable, sweet, wonderful, intelligent children. What could you
Oh.
complain about, RJ? They've never
Well,
done anything wrong.
They
At
were
least
just
in
like
my
RJ
present.
and Rachel. They're like super warm and engaging. Gave me like monster hugs right when I met them. I was.
You just want to keep spending time with them. You're like, I can't
Yeah.
cancel my afternoon, Debbie. I'm just hanging out with these kids right now. Come on.
It
I
was
think you're
great.
just saying that to be nice, but I appreciate it.
I have nothing to be nice about at this point in time. I'm just,
That's
you know.
true. Well, Brian, we missed you. We missed you. And what happened was that we had a awesome hangout at Founders, and Megan, at the beginning, you could just walk up to the thing and, get a beer and order food, and it was great. And then by the time people started showing up, the line went out the door. And for some reason at Founders, they only let you buy beer from one particular bar. The other bars are not for buying beer from. So
and you can't even walk up to anybody at the bar. You can only go up to one person at the bar. There's one line to get a beer. They have 4 bars there. So I worked in restaurants a really long time, and I just didn't understand what they were doing. They were losing money. So I felt so bad because when Tom came, he was so excited to be there. He also thought we were performing some sort of live event like everyone else did, which I'm sorry if people thought we were doing a live HF Pod event, but it was just a hang. And we could not get Tom a beer. And I felt bad about that. But otherwise, we had an awesome time, and we had a great turnout. And everybody that came was so supportive and nice and said such great things to say about the pod. And I really appreciate that. And I have a request of those people, though. I have a request that everybody that came up to us and said how much they appreciate the podcast, if they can go and rate the podcast on Apple Music, that would be really fucking cool. And also just help get the word out. Maybe they can share the podcast with 1 or 2 of their fish friends. It'd be awesome. So that would be something you could do for us.
I just want to appreciate in the moment Meg, who will occasionally tell us that she's the noob around here and that she's the one who is learning on the job, just segueing perfectly into podcasting ask right there of, hey, just, if you like the pod, how much time would it take for you to just log on to Apple Music, click us that 5 stars, tell us how much you love the way that I pronounce the word ambient or ambient or ambience or whatever the hell it is. I don't know. I just like the music. And tell us something about the pod. That is amazing stuff there, Meg. Well done.
Thanks,
you guys
Brian.
are reminding me. I really apologize for ripcording this right now, but you guys are reminding me why I don't go to bars or breweries anymore, because it feels like so many of them make these illogical decisions about service that it's I'm just gonna get the Topo Chico out of my fridge and hang out on my back patio. And if you want to come hang, come hang. I don't know why I need to go to a place where you've created ridiculous rules for you to make money.
Or not.
You guys did such a great job with that segment. I'm not even going to bother to say that it's Apple Podcasts and not Apple Music, because people already know that.
Oh,
so thank
did
you
I
both
say
for
Apple
your,
Music?
for your professional.
Okay, see,
no,
there
I'm
you
just
go.
kidding. Look, here we go. Look at this. Ben Gardner, who we saw briefly
Oh,
at
hey, Ben.
Founders. He's gonna figure out how to rate the pod 5 stars come hell or high water.
Hell yeah. That's the kind
Ben
of energy
Gardner,
we
one of the
need.
most reliable HF Pod fans to come to an HF Pod event. He came to our Osiris Live event when we had Taper's Choice back in 2022 here in
Ooh.
Denver. Had just amazing, nice things to say. Was so good to meet him in person. Then he came to every single HF Pod Live event in the Dick Slot. Like one of the most loyal, true fans out there. Ryan Storm hasn't even been to most of our events. Come on.
Jeez. Wow. We had Rob Mitchum show up just so like, what? I got to meet Rob Mitchum, talk to him. It was like meeting a celebrity. It was awesome and just so great. And what an honor because he did the recap for Grand Rapids night 2 and I got to do it for night 1. And I was like, never in my life did I think I'd be like sharing a fish.net post with Rob Mitchum. So things are looking up.
The one rule I have is when you see shows with Rob Mitchum, they're usually confounding shows. I've seen 4 shows in my life with Rob
Really?
Mitchum, and each one of them I've been like, we both walked out being like,
That's so interesting.
so what? I don't want to give anything away, but you know,
Yeah, let's not bury the lead here.
Yeah. Okay, so I do think I didn't tell you this, Brian and Megan, but I think maybe later we might be joined briefly by a guest, Scott Chaslin, who plays in the band Reprise, and he might come on for a minute to say hi and talk about Reprise and some other stuff. But that's going to happen later. First, we should get into this because we have 3 voicemails from kind of throughout the we're covering 5 shows, so we have voicemails that kind of cover a few of those. But let's get into it first, I guess. Brian, having the last 5 shows, you know, couch tour, how are you feeling, Brian, about the last 5 shows, and what do you what's standing out to you?
well, I feel great. Like out of most things in my life, like no, actually, when you take the Cubs' recent performance, the elevation of Tim Walz to the vice presidential nominee, and the performance and handling of all things campaigning by Kamala Harris, and the way that Phish has performed this summer, I feel amazing. Like this band, I'm just going to come out and say it. One of my big themes for this is if you take that week from 7:30 to 8/4, so the 2 nights in St. Louis and the 3 nights in Deer Creek, we're going to put a bracket around Grand Rapids right now, just because I think it's a very unique thing that we're going to dive into in detail. But those 5 shows from 7:30 to 8/4, I think is up there with one of the best weeks in Phish history. I think it is incredibly consistent playing. The jamming reaches like risky new levels of connection. There's these moments where you just hear intra-band conversation and communication in a way that I just crave. And you guys know me, like I love this sort of stuff. That is what I seek out of this band. There are jams that could have ended and then extend on for 10 more minutes, and we get all this new ideas and insight in playing. There are rarities coming out. The set lists are fresh. Like I'm in. I'm all in. And we'll talk Grand Rapids. Like my vibe just at a broad level is like positive, because I think that they continued the unique aspect of this tour that I'm still wrapping my head around. I don't think we're going to fully grasp what this tour is until well after it, because I think there's just a lot. There's a lot to process. There's a lot happening. There's a lot of creativity, but you know, to take your short question and expand it out to a full essay, I'll just bring it back around to one word. I feel great, man.
Well, the first time for everything, Brian. Thank you. I appreciate you.
First time for everything.
Megan, what do you got to add to what Brian said, or to contradict him?
Well, I think Phish is still really exciting to see. I think that's how I'm feeling after this last week and a half. I agree with Brian. I think the St. Louis and Deer Creek shows were just phenomenal musically and really showed what they're doing well right now, which is great flow, choosing great set lists, and really connecting when they jam. I think what was interesting about Grand Rapids was, besides the fact that I had like most incredible time of my life there, just being in my hometown and seeing it turned into Phish universe and seeing old friends and having great conversations and just really riding those vibes. It was incredible. But it really was exciting the first night and in a different way and really fun. And I think that the second night in Grand Rapids and some other nights on the tour also, there's been some sets. And I think in Deer Creek, there's like a set or two that Trey's risk taking with set lists doesn't pay off as well. And his kind of eagerness to play a lot of songs is kind of disrupting the flow occasionally. And also another thing that I think is really interesting, and when I've been thinking especially about Grand Rapids and some moments in Deer Creek too, every time a jam starts to settle, there seems to be like a pivotal moment in the jam. And I've been finding myself holding my breath because it feels like so often those moments, Trey either launches, allows it to settle and then launches the jam further, or he'll just ripcord it. And I feel like the more the tour is going on, the more I feel myself feeling that. And I think that is a product too of how good the jams are, because when they are connecting, they're so solid, like Brian was talking about. And so we all just want them to keep doing that.
Well, okay, let's talk about Deer Creek first, because there's a lot to cover, and it's 5 shows. So I don't even know where to start, but I feel like the first night of Deer Creek, there's some nice jams in the first set. I think that I thought were pretty interesting. The life saving gun was great. I felt like that really like set the tone for that first night. But then you get this like again another monster jam in the second set with the Sense and Subtle Sounds. Brian, did Sense and Subtle Sounds make it onto your list, and where is that Sense and Subtle Sounds, and how do you feel like that kind of set up the weekend?
So I think like at large, I felt the show was a bit unhinged and sloppy, but I did agree, like your call out of the life saving gun, that was one of my favorite moments of the overall show. I really liked how that set list, you've got Kill Devil Falls, Life Saving Gun, and Pillow Jets. Two songs that are new, one song that I still think of as a new song, even though 2009 was 15 years ago.
Yeah.
Like those 3 songs really showcased where the creativity was. They really pushed the band forward from a jamming standpoint. They weren't very long, but I thought they were really interesting. Sense and Subtle Sounds I have in my second tier of jams. I thought the more I listened to it, the more I really, really like the back end where they just find this euphoric kind of peak and this riff that Trey builds and builds and builds upon. It kind of makes me think about thematically, we were talking earlier in the tour that it felt like they were finding ideas really quickly, and as a result of
Mhm.
finding ideas really quickly, they would kind of just only let something build and percolate for 90 seconds, 2 minutes, and then hop to another idea. So like 14-15 minute jams were filled with just lots and lots of ideas, but nothing really expanded upon. And I felt like this Sense and Subtle Sounds, along with the Tweezer and the Simple from earlier in the week, felt like a band allowing ideas to build and see where they go. And where do they go? This beautiful euphoric peak that spills over into Down with Disease, which then kind of colors the remainder of that show and turns what was a bit sloppier around the edges into a show that I thought was super fun. A really good Friday night show, a very Deer Creek-esque show in the sense that you mix jamming and humor in a way that would then foreshadow where we went with the remainder of the weekend. But yeah, I thought it was a solid jam, but I'm right there with you. That Life Saving Gun was it for me from that first night.
Yeah,
What do you guys think?
I felt what was interesting is that the first set feeling really sloppy, like lyrically, musical flubs, it kind of morphed into a playfulness, which I think is really fantastic. You had some like Trey banter, and then you've got this disease fest. My favorite jam, I loved the KDF of the show. I also loved the Life Saving Gun. I think the return of a day in the life was really, really fun. And people were, anytime you get to hear that, it's just so exciting. I love this sense though. Definitely one of my favorite jams of the whole run. The first one in 20 years to pass 20 minutes. Really liked how they were using like cool noises, and then Trey was able to find like this hopeful melody over it. I think it's a really effortless, sultry jam that really just has like a very nice vibe to it. And I love how it lands in the Down with Disease riff so seamlessly. And that's kind of like where they start on that Disease Fest. And that brings like the joy for the rest of the set that they just kind of like ride. I really, really love I Always Wanted It This Way. I love when like EDM Page comes out and like their Page was like yelling and it just had such a great vibe to it. So it started to feel like really playful. And I think the Yem encore with Trey singing the Down with Disease riff was just awesome. It was so fun and a good use of the vocal jam.
Yeah. I was just thrilled that they played Down with Disease at Deer Creek. So for the first time in ages, I did not get a Down with Disease in the 2 nights at Grand Rapids, which was kind of a miracle.
That's
so
amazing.
I feel like the first 2 shows had totally different approaches in terms of the songs and whatnot, but kind of a similar, like they hit a couple jams in the first set and then the second set has kind of a segment of jams. Did you guys feel like Saturday felt different from Friday in terms of, I don't know, just in terms of the improv and then in terms of the way that the show unfolded?
I love the show.
Yeah, 100%. I thought this was a really classic show, a classic feeling show. I mean, the first set outside of Drift While You're Sleeping, and I guess Isabella, though it's like such a 90s song. Like these are early 90s songs that are being played. It's super classic feel. It felt like push play on a summer 94 set 1 where it doesn't like blow you away, it doesn't go crazy, but it like is just banger after banger after banger played really well. The Mike song is awesome from this show. What a way to start it off. Really interesting jamming approach. This show for me is all about set 2, but it is one of those shows where like a perfect set 2 complemented by a really nice, tight, fluid set 1 makes for just like push play. There's no need to, well, I guess Drift While You're Sleeping, you can skip past. But, aside from that, you've got a perfect show.
I agree. I feel set 2 doesn't have the like 30, 40 minute monster jam that we, people want or you might expect, but they jammed pretty much everything that they could and they played it super well. Perfect placement everywhere. This is a press play at the beginning and not stop show. The start off with Mike's super muscular. They just came out sounding really strong and like hungry. I too love this jam. I think all of the jams in like Chalk Dust, Plasma, Cross-Eyed into Guy Forget, and then Fuego. I mean, that's an awesome set. Just again, great flow and bringing the vacuum out and having this fun banter with like Fishman laying on the floor and just felt really old school, like you were saying, Brian, really classic and perfect encore with rock and roll.
I feel like one of the things that I've seen, like these shows, I feel like the set listing choices, as you guys have pointed out, like it's cool to see, a variety of placement for a lot of these songs. But then in each show, there's just like an odd choice. Like the first night, the heavy things in the first set, there's just like 5 minutes. It's just sort of like, and like the character Zero, the second night, kind of like right in the middle of the first set. Like I just feel like there's these 5 minute, 6 minute songs that are like, you got to take the risk to have the payoff. But then there's a couple of times when it's like, I don't really understand the point of that particular choice. But I think because it kind of is like a little bit of a pivot to this next part of the set, it works fine. But to me, it shows that like, you take risks with these set listing choices. And sometimes it's like, yeah, we got a 5 minute heavy things in the middle of the first set, which is just sort of like, it just catches your attention.
Trey joked about this on night 4 in Mexico. They opened up with an 18-minute simple, which moved into this kind of percussive jam, and it segued directly into Sanity. And the place freaked out. Everyone was laughing. It was awesome. And then he forgot the lyrics to the third verse. And he sang along to the melody like, this is what happens when you don't write a set list, and it's exactly like you're saying, like that was an example of like, they stumbled into something amazing. Holy shit, we're playing Sanity basically right now. Let's play that. We haven't played it in a long time. Oh shit, I don't remember how to play this song. Well, who cares? It's Sanity. Everyone's going to laugh anyway. And then you get the Chalk Dust Torture reprise, and it ends up being just, that was one of my favorite sets in Mexico. The other side of that, though, is like, how many times have you found yourself with, I don't know, a 30-minute drive and you're like, I don't know what to listen to. And like the easy choice is to turn on the radio, but you're not the type of person who turns on the radio and lets like, pop hits play. Like you want to actually have a album that you listen to for that 30 minutes, but you just like your brain goes blank. You got to imagine that happens to Trey sometimes on stage.
Totally.
And then like you get a song that may not totally fit, which is just that's the risk you take. I mean, it is interesting though. I'm just looking at night one, 19 show gap on Punch, 18 show gap on Halfway to the Moon, 66 show gap on Heavy Things, 75 on Son of a Mule, 162 on Day in the Life, 86 on Oki Pa, and 29 on I Always Wanted It This Way. Like, as they've been doing this tour, they're reinserting songs that don't feel like rarities back into the catalog, and that's gonna make things kind of ebb and flow between tightness and flow and looseness and a little bit of slop. Like, that's all part of it.
That's been a big theme of mine, though, for this tour, I think, is that by continuing to open up the catalog, you are going to have those moments. But I think it's important for them to keep doing and keep these songs in rotation. They could just be playing all these Evolve songs like constantly, and they're not. They're doing a good job of that.
They're not treating this the way that they treated Fuego during summer 2014, where
Right.
it was like, hey, we got a new album. Why don't you guys go out and buy it? Well, everyone here already bought it. Okay.
Yeah.
You don't need to sell it to us anymore.
we already bought it.
Yeah.
The other thing I wanted to point out before we move on from the show is that I really love this Plasma Jam. It's really good.
Yeah.
And I keep returning to it. And I think it's just awesome. Fishman is just doing the work of like 4 people in this jam. And I think it has just so many great moments, really great transitions between light and dark. And I really like it. So check it out.
The playing in the Chalk Dust at the beginning is so slow. Like it's crazy. It's like it feels slowed down. It feels like a 2.0 like approach, but then that whole set really is cool. It's great. I think that kind of Saturday, I felt like the weekend was kind of like stepping up along each show.
Yeah, I can see that.
100% agree. 100% agree. And I think also like, I was thinking about this yesterday. I think that we've kind of gotten to this weird point where I feel like Phish approaches, because there's no singular show on this tour. It's all runs. It's either 2 or 3 night runs or Mondegreen and Dick's, which are 4. They almost approach these runs as though it's its own mini tour. And so the feeling of night 1 carries over to night 2. And if the momentum continues to build on night 2, it spills over to night 3. And whereas I feel like Alpine had a bit of an uneven vibe to it on night 1, night 2 then had this kind of strong rebound, especially in the second set. And night 3, as we talked about, felt a little bit hodgepodge and like a mess in a way. Deer Creek, in the difference here, as we'll talk about with night 3, at least to me, was you had a show that was sloppy around the edges, but the band really injected with kind of deep jamming still, some humor, a ton of fun and energy with the Down with Disease Fest. The second night has this very classic set list, and then a second set that like doesn't go insanely deep, but to your point, Meg, like Plasma at 14 minutes feels a lot longer. Cross-eyed into Guy Forget has some really deep jamming, and then that leads to the third night where they just kind of play whatever the hell they want in set 1, and then give us like a complete set 2 for the ages. Like there's something about that building block that worked a little bit more for me than it did, or a lot more for me than it did at Alpine.
I will say the first set of night 3, going into set break, I was a little worried. I don't know. I feel like it was like a laundry list of their weirdest songs played in order.
Yeah. Give
Weird
me that.
Chip Brinkman.
Give me
like
that.
A Casbah back song into a Sci-Fi Soldier song. That is a lot to ask. That is just a lot to ask. But it's just like the flow was a tiny bit off, and every song came on. I remember I think I texted you guys and I said, these are all songs that I'm totally fine to miss in Grand Rapids. So I feel great about it. But so I was a little concerned, but obviously set 2 was phenomenal, like perfect set of Phish. But it was just funny because I was worried.
Yeah.
There was this trend in the early part of 3.0 where we'd randomly get a show that the first set just had all the bust outs everybody was chasing. And then the second set would be just kind of okay. This kind of felt like all the bust outs that nobody is chasing. But I'm I'm totally here for it. Like, I love the Final Hurrah. I think that's one of the cooler Casual Vox songs.
Yeah.
I think Knucklebone Broth Avenue rules, and I remember the first time they played it thinking like this has a lot of jamming potential. But yeah, I agree with you. Like the 46 Days was the musical highlight of that, and that's the one of two songs with a sub 10 show gap in the set.
Yeah. Not RJ's fave, so he's
No.
But I did actually think that stretches out a little bit nice.
Do you not like 46 Days?
Wait,
Not
you know
talking about it.
this.
I
Brian,
guess.
you know this. Did you forget?
Do you like the band?
Yeah, he doesn't like rock and roll, I guess. I don't know.
No.
It's weird.
Not I've never been into rock and roll really. No.
No, wait, I am not attacking you
rock
here.
and roll
I wanna
guy.
hear your thoughts because this is very interesting to me. Somehow I've missed this. You don't like 46 Days.
It's fine. I wouldn't say that I dislike it. I would just say that, like, except for the Merriweather 2018 version, 2018, 2015, 2015. Like, it's fine. It's fine. Totally
You
fine.
don't like cowbell?
I would say that when they started, I'm not like, fuck yeah, let's go. I'm just like, okay.
It's funny.
It's not Tweezer.
I have a vivid memory of they had released Walls of the Cave, and then I was at a party and a friend of mine said they just released a new single from the album. It's called 46 Days. And I was like, oh, cool. What does it sound like? Which is kind of a dumb question because like, how are you going to describe a song you've never heard? But, you know, he was like, it's kind of like a harder Queen the Eskimo. And that's always been in my head. And I love that era of Dylan and I love the band. And so like every time I hear that, I hear it being played out of a barn, which is where it was recorded. RJ, I don't know if you know that that's where Fish records their albums, in a barn. And then there's just been so many great, like, shout out to our good buddy who's in the chat, Ryan Storm. He knows what I'm talking about. The 46 Days is one of my favorite jams of all time. Anyway, I thought the 46 Days from this set was great, and I hope to, you know, convince you at some point that 46 Days is a great song.
Well, I don't want to do a stat thing and like really throw it out there that I've been, you know, that I saw probably the first, second, and third versions of 46 Days. I've seen it 30 times in my 30-year career. So once a year, you know, that's like plenty.
It hits. Yeah.
It's plenty for
once
me.
A year.
You know, and out of those 30 times, one of them was amazing. So like, you know, I'll take whatever. You know, I'm standing by my opinion here. It's My Soul, but you know, but it's not that different from My Soul.
It is a lot different from My
Soul.
It is. The dance
it actually has soul.
Much better. Yeah, exactly. It's like it has like grit to it. My Soul is just like like this 46 Days is like it's like got something in it. Like My Soul is like perfect filling your water bottle and taking a seat and crossing your legs vibe.
Well, and it's like what we talk about with like So versus Slow Ready. Like So Ready tells you about sex, and it's like point by point, this is what we're going to do, and this is why you're going to like it, and you know, here's a nice 4 on the 4 beat. And then Slow Ready is like sex, where it's just like, and like My Soul is like, hey, I'm telling you that I've got a soul. I'm telling you right now, I have one. 46 Days is soul. Like it has the vibe.
Love
guys. It's fine. I mean, you know, people are saying in the chat, it's a great jam vehicle. Like once every 2 years it jams. If that's your idea of a jam vehicle, like great, it's fine. It's everyone, you know, there are songs that I like that, you know, people don't like. It's just part of being a music fan, and
it's true.
You know, it's just how
you're absolutely right about that. I just love hearing your opinion when it's contradictory, because it's always surprising but well formed. Have you heard the Kobo 46 Days? That's a good jam.
Yep.
Have you heard the Magdaball 46 Days?
No, I've heard all of them. Yep. Heard all of them. All right. So the fact that this Ghost and Soul Planet are back to back is
my God
insane. Like it doesn't even really matter that, you know, whatever. Nothing else really matters. But the fact that those two are back to back is just, it's crazy. You could have them one night, one the next night, and it would have been totally amazing. But the fact that they just go from one to the next is just, it's wild. They're pretty different, I think, but the Ghost is just, what a like full 30 however many minutes of celebration. That's just what it felt like to me, and it really never slowed down or stopped. And just, they had that, they've been doing this a lot recently, which we've talked about. They have the, either the kind of like major key peak, and then there's a little bit of a slowdown where it could go into something else, then they pick it back up. So it's either like they start with the dark, then there's like a little interstitial, and then it goes into the light, or the opposite. But this was it's really fun to listen to.
Yeah, this jam, I don't want to make anybody uncomfortable, but there's like a really amazing foreplay to this jam. It's so unhurried and sexy, and oh my God, it's just so effortless and beautiful. And when the big rolling drums kick in, it's just, it's so pretty. But my favorite part of this jam is at the end, when it just becomes huge and Trey is just like this dinosaur just chewing up the scenery, and it just destroying everything in its path. This jam has everything. This is probably my favorite jam of these 5 days that we're talking about. Just Mike and Fishman, the way that they're continuing to like lead these effortless transitions between light and dark with really inventive playing is just blowing my mind. And that's really evident in this jam.
Yeah, one of my good buddies, shout out to John McGar, had me listen to the odd version of The Ghost, and around like 14 to 15 and a half minutes, you just hear like Trey comes up with this riff. It's one of those riffs he just plucks out of the air, and I've heard this song before. No, you've never heard this before. I just came up with it right here, right now, in the middle of this song. And he builds upon it, and you can hear, because you can hear this part on the soundboard, but what you can't hear is Mike. But you hear Trey and Fishman kind of like, Trey plays the riff, Fishman kind of speeds him up. He plays a little bit faster, he speeds him up more. And underneath, Mike is not playing along with the melody. He's got this weird effect on, and he's playing this like industrial, like, and it like it energizes the riff, so it turns into this hard edged rock riff, and they transition to that, and then Trey reincorporates the majestic, beautiful, soaring riff into a rock groove. It's just like 90 seconds of, my God, these guys are listening to each other and in communication so well right now. Yeah, you said it really well, RJ. Like, you would be very lucky to go to a 2-night run and hear one of these jams one night and one of them the next night. Extremely lucky. Like, that is how I felt coming out of Mexico 2 and 3, when I got that Wave of Hope and Choctaws Torture back to back on back-to-back nights. But then, my God, like, I can't think of any moment since Berkeley 4/17/23 where we got the tweezer into the simple, and it was 63 minutes of just fully connected jamming across 2 songs.
Which is one jam, right? Here,
I consider it one jam. Some people may consider it 2 jams. This, though, the Ghost and Soul Planet, because there's an actual break and then they start another song, I consider 2 jams. Nice try. We're just like needling at each other and trying to break each other. It's a really great episode of the pod today, guys. I appreciate it. I just think like the biggest difference between these 2 jams is the Ghost, to me, feels in line with the simple and the tweezer, where I text this to you guys. It feels to me like they are deliberately trying to extend a jam and extend ideas, and it almost feels like an exercise, and it feels like a sound check, or it feels like a late night set. Whereas the Soul Planet is that result of all that work, where they just go, and it's just like there's nothing stopping this band. They're just like one thing after another, boom, 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 boom. It's just amazing.
Well, it's like house money at that point, right? Like,
yeah, I to me, like, the Soul Planet is much more of a dynamic experience. Like the Ghost feels like a sound check jam in the way that it's just sort of like, it's all kind of heading in one direction, whereas the Soul Planet takes a lot of twists and turns, and even though there's some of the same themes there, it feels a little bit more like, it feels a little bit more exploratory in that way, which is awesome. Great. Good for everybody. They got a Sunday show,
Oh my God. And then it drops into Billy Breathes, which is like so perfect. And then they just like go off into Melt, into this like industrial sludge. It was, What a set, my God. Just like a 4-song set. It's the stuff of dreams.
First 4-song set since 4/17/23. We've talked about this a lot. The flow, not adding an additional like sometimes you just stop and the set speaks for itself. And this is that, like, first Billy Breathes in 129 shows, 10, 15, 21. Melt, the absolute perfect set closer after this, and then Slave, the absolute perfect encore. Like, come on. Sometimes, like, you know, I got nothing.
Sometimes they're
Just
so
sometimes.
good.
Sometimes it just works.
Sometimes it just works. And I feel like that was what I was really curious to see. Like, what do you do after you play a set like that and a run like Deer Creek? You know, it's a tall order to keep this up. I mean, St. Louis and Deer Creek back to back, those are some incredible shows.
It's I just thought of this, but like, I just finished 2 fiction books that I didn't love. And like, on the surface, like, the plot was fine. There were moments that, like, I was like, "Oh, cool. I just, like, got a new perspective on life." But like, overall, I felt like the character development wasn't great. The writing was just like telling me what it was going on. But prior to that, I read 2 books, Northwoods and The Bee Sting, which longtime listeners will know that the 3 of us love those 2 books. And those 2 books, like, feel like perfect books in the light of 2 books that I did not like. And it's just, I don't know how you, like, it's hard to explain that, like, sometimes writing just works and other times writing feels like it's writing. And it's the same with setlist construction on the fly. Sometimes it feels like we are trying to put another song in here to do this, whatever it is. And other times it's just like the music just speaks for itself. And this second set just felt like the music spoke for itself.
Agree.
All right. Well, we're gonna for the people listening, we're gonna take a quick break. If you're watching, you know, it won't be that long, but we have to get to Grand Rapids. So see you in a minute. All right. So guys, we're coming into Grand Rapids on Tuesday. Again, everyone knew that Billy Strings was around. It was people were talking about it all day. But before we get there, let's talk about the first set of night one. The highs of the set, I thought, you know, I really liked the Sigma Oasis jam. It was short, but I really appreciated being at my first show in a year and, like, you know, hitting that in the second song, and then hearing of Peaches, you know, which is just a real special thing. I think maybe that's only my second or third that I've seen.
First in 116 shows too, Mexico 2022.
That was the last one that I saw also.
Yeah.
Was your third?
And the last one that I saw was in 1996. I've been wanting to hear that forever. Yeah.
What show?
It was 12/6/96. Kind of a show you might
I always
have heard
forget
about.
I always forget you're at that show. That is like, man.
I kind of forget it too. I was on a lot of things. Or a lot of one thing, I should say. So my memories are very confusing.
I thought
but I know I did end up lost in a casino for a long time after that show. So those are that I haven't forgotten that part.
Something special about second term Clinton Fish. You know what I mean?
Megan and I both got to write a review of this show, so I think we had a similar take on set one, which is, you know, the bathtub gin was really kind of the highlight. I think you like you did the stash as well, but a couple like, you know, pillars of the set. But what was your take on the overall set, Meg?
I thought it was fantastic. I thought it was really high energy and just like perfect flow. Killer first set, ended with a big triumphant peak in gin, and going to set break, everybody was looking around thinking that was killer. It was really good, really great set. You know, you've got good like rarities. It was just fun opening with Strawberry, and I thought it was really, really great. And you've got the Sigma theme, stash, and gin all kind of stretched out a little bit. So I thought it was actually really great for a set.
Yeah, it felt like a little bit of extra oomph to a first set.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I think you kind of had like the mixture of the energy of Saturday night's classic first set and kind of a few random songs thrown in there, like Train Song and Peaches and Strawberry Letter. So it kept things fresh. I thought that Jin was musically the highlight. I think Jin has had a really interesting year where we haven't, aside from the Mexico version, that's really, really good. I would encourage people to go back and listen to it. We haven't gotten like a big sprawling Jin like the Berkeley one last year, or like the Magnaball one or MSG 2015. But we've gotten these like type 1.5 jams that have like Great Woods was like this, the Sphere was like this. I would say Grand Rapids was like it as well, where there's like a 30 to 90 second, they push it, but they're never going to fully leave Jin. They're always going to be within range of the Jin riff. And yet it just adds a little bit extra there that, like, especially when you're talking a set closer, it's just really good stuff.
I think they did that really well in this set. The like type 1 jamming, just like really, really great. And sometimes
Yeah.
that's okay, especially for first set. I'm here for that.
Yeah. Yeah. I want to just, sorry, I have to go back to this. Austin, who's watching, said that Slave has ended every 4.0 Deer Creek run, which is
I didn't know that. Cool. That's so cool.
And we didn't mention
That's
that Trey
wild.
had a really nice little, shout out to Deer Creek before they started Slave. That was what an amazing way to end that show.
That place is so vibey. Like just watching it on the webcast, it just brought back so many memories when I was so young, and like Mike was out on the golf cart, like riding around the lot. Like the lot scene at Deer Creek is like unparalleled. Is such a great place. I got to get back there.
Yeah.
I've only been once, but I would love to go back. It's easier to get to than Alpine, and it has a high batting average, and was home to the second best Phish show ever played, which was, come on, I know you guys know this. All right, I'll do it. $725.99. Please release the soundboard.
I'm not listening to that.
We're letting you do it. Do it.
I haven't heard that show. I'll check it out though.
You picked that show in our draft. Stop this. Stop this.
It's all nonsense. Bathtub Gin was the easiest call of the night for me. Yeah. I was like, saw that coming from a mile away, and beautiful. What a great way to close the set. Okay, so second set we get like a mini set with a Harry Hood closer after Freeze and Ruby Waves. The Ruby Waves jam was great, really fun. And then we get this epic 1 hour sit-in with Billy Strings, Billy as part of the band, singing lead vocals on Possum, basically leading the band through, the remainder of the show, with some good jamming with Trey and everyone else, of course. But it was a pretty wild experience. Definitely thought maybe like a long, 2 songs, and then they'd close it out themselves. But he just didn't leave, which was pretty epic. And then I just want to say the encore, like and I've seen Billy Strings a lot, and when he plays electric guitar, it's really loud, and like his guitar is screaming. And so like to end it with Carini was just a really good call for him, but it was wildly loud in there.
Yeah, it was wildly loud when he came out. I think that moment on night 1 was pretty exciting. Everybody knew it was going to happen, but still just super exciting. And, Phish never has sit-ins rarely has sit-ins. And to know that Billy was going to finally play with Phish, I think something Trey's probably been wanting for a while, was pretty exciting. And the crowd just absolutely lost it. Yeah, and I think Trey was really excited too. That MoMA is interesting. Like definitely a lot of like excited lyrical mishaps while Trey was singing lead in MoMA, but I think it was thrilling to watch because it had this real wild runaway train energy to it. The whole sit-in, but especially this MoMA, you just kind of never knew what was going to happen, and it was fun for me. I've never seen Billy Strings, and he's a really interesting player to watch. Like he bends his knees a lot, and he gets up on his toes, and he kind of like sways his hair, and he's got like a whole vibe going, which I thought was really awesome. And it was neat to see them kind of trading licks, but then also playing together in kind of a musical embrace where they were playing, the same notes at the same time, kind of Allman Brothers-y. But I really loved when they both took like really emotional solos, and it was cool to see that change. I thought that the second night, which we'll talk about later, obviously, he had more of it seems like he'd been listening to Trey more when he played the second night, but the first night it really sounded like Billy's emotional solo and then Trey's. And that was, to me, that's like incredible watching these guys play these kind of solos. And the Possum was just wild. Like it was so insane. And I think you texted this to us, RJ, but it did remind me of like how Trey was playing in like mid 90s, like how fast, like, 94, he could just play so fast. And Billy plays that way. And it was thrilling in that. And the Everything's Right jam was awesome. Like 2 Guitar Fish, I feel like really peaked there. And when they were kind of dueling on the high end, they made such a great space for Mike on the low end. And he was just killing it with just really interesting bass lines. So I love that.
I believe Billy is the same age right now that Trey was in 94. Like
Oh,
late
wow.
late
That makes
20s,
sense.
early
Yeah.
30s. And like that is like physically where like dexterity and if you, as long as like mental capability there is practice, like you're gonna get that just like soaring, fully flowing, really fast guitar work. Yeah, so I I want to like ask you guys your thoughts on all of this because you guys were there, you were in the room, and like that like really impacts. I'll just share quickly from the couch. Um, I love Billy. I am not a huge bluegrass guy. It sometimes to me feels like eating my vegetables. And I will listen to it like more academically than like just throw it on. But I saw Billy for the first time 2.5 years ago and my wife and I went. She's a big bluegrass fan, and I was kind of just going to check it out. I had really close friends who were like, "He's the real deal," and I walked out of there just like there's a vibe about him and there's a feeling when he's in the room that I've only seen with a couple of artists. Like he
Mm,
captures the audience and he wins over your heart and you are completely transfixed. The things you're talking about, Meg, in terms of like the way he moves around on stage, there's like a court jester element to him, but there's also this like regal, like, he's the ringleader, like, who's bringing everyone together, and he's the showman. Ben Gardner mentioned it in here. He's a performer through and through. He just has like a way about him that you can't teach. Like you either have it or you
yeah.
don't, and he has it in a big way. And he I every time I've seen him, it teaches me something and it fills my heart up. And there's also always a moment where you see a side to him and his band musically that is really challenging in a cool way. They are not just It's not just 20 minutes of strings being plucked. It is cool sounds, cool inventive ideas. The lights are really fascinating. So knowing he was going to come out, I was just really excited to hear how he would mesh with Fish because you haven't heard him play with an electric band in this sort of standpoint. And I also knew from, Trey's Marin interview and when Trey went out on stage with him a couple of years ago, that Trey just loves this dude
Oh,
and like is like enamored by this talent, and it was so apparent to see that throughout the show. I'm curious, like for you guys being there, was that aspect of it, the like Trey being just taken by Billy Strings, was that apparent in the room?
he could not
Yeah.
get close enough to him. Like, could
Yeah.
not. He was like walking up. Like most of the time, Billy was like playing facing the audience with like his body slightly turned, and Trey was just completely turned towards Billy, just like staring. And he just kept creeping closer and closer and closer. And that was one of the best things to watch for me.
Yeah, I mean, I think that so a few things. First of all, the just your point about bluegrass. I mean, I love. We've talked about this a lot. Like the String Dusters have been my conduit to bluegrass for the
Mm,
past 15 years.
Yeah.
Knowing those guys and watching them play so much and learning about bluegrass through them. And I think all bluegrass is really, as pointed out in one of the comments here, like it is like history. You know.
yeah.
Um,
100% agree.
which is
100%.
Yeah.
amazing. But I do think, and I wrote about this in the Jam Base review that I did. Like I think Trey is someone who, when he's like in conversation with someone, he's fully in it, and that was apparent musically on both nights. But I also think like what Trey loves about Billy Strings, and I think what he loves about Goose and some of the other artists that he loves is that he appreciates people who are creating original music. And I think
Yeah.
it's just
That's
interesting
right.
because we didn't see that at all. Like they didn't play any Billy String songs, obviously, but I think that's one of the things that, like, I don't think Trey is necessarily impressed by people shredding on the guitar. I don't think that like impresses him. I think what impresses him is original music that is like true to the performer. And I think that's what Billy Strings does. That's different than almost any other artist achieves what you were describing, Brian, because he takes, of course he plays the classics, and you can't really play bluegrass without playing the classics.
Right.
It's just
yeah, you have to.
It's just baked in. But seeing Trey up there with him, I think is and just them jamming basically, I thought was really interesting. But I think that's what and I wrote about this in Megan. I don't know how you feel about it, but like to me in that moment, I was thinking, they've had 4 real sit-ins over the past 10 years, and like with legends, Derek Trucks, Dave Matthews, Bob Weir, Billy Strings, and like and Billy said this in his message, like this space on stage that the 4 of them have is sacred, and they don't like having a tab sit in is different. Like you come up and
Totally.
tab and play a couple songs and it's great, but like to be on stage with Phish, not just for an encore cover song or something, but like to really sit in and be part of that, it's a pretty unique thing. And I think I couldn't help that night but think about, like, it's interesting how Jerry never had the opportunity or willingness or inclination to do anything like that, either with Trey or with anyone else, to say like, this is the future. Like the Dead had Branford Marsalis and whoever, but it wasn't like, we're going to invite someone up here who really represents to us where this music is going. And that's what I felt happened on Tuesday.
Absolutely.
Well, I think a lot of that is the fortune we all have and Trey has of getting healthy. We've talked about this a lot. He talked about this on the Marin podcast as well, in some ways related to Billy, but like he's gotten himself to a point where he can really dictate what the next 10, 20 years of his career look like, however much time he has left playing live music. And the fact that he is using part of that to push artists like Billy Strings, bands like Goose. Brian Weinstein notes in here why he loves and is so public about King Gizzard. Like he sees this next generation of artists that are doing very original things that are within that kind of Phish realm, and knows, because he got it from Santana, that if an older artist pushes them and gives them that platform, and gives them the nod, it's a huge deal. Like that can push the trajectory of these bands in a place that they're currently not at and they may want to get to. It just opens the door, and at the same time it gives them support and love and attention in a way that I think is a good thing. And I think more than anything, beyond the music, like that was where my heart felt watching these 2 nights, was what a lucky thing we are experiencing, where Trey gets to be in love with these artists that so many of us are in love with, and give them another step forward, give them an opportunity that they'll never forget, and that as listeners and fans will never forget.
Yeah, I think you guys have both said it beautifully. And I would just add that the generosity that Trey is showing right now as a musician is just off the charts and unparalleled. And in that Marin interview, he did talk so much about Santana. And I think that has resonated with him a lot. And he wants to be that person for the next generation. And that's so beautiful. And I feel like that is, despite, we'll get into night 2 and our feelings about it, but just knowing that that's where he's coming from with that is something that's so fantastic. And the authenticity that Billy showed, and also in his message that he put out, was really beautiful. Just understanding that he gets it, and how appreciative he was, and how much he understands what the audience brings. I thought that was really cool that he brought that up.
And in classic Trey fashion, you have an amazing night. Absolute. Everyone walks out. That was one of the coolest things I've ever seen. So what do? We should do it again.
Let's do it again. You're around, right? Let's just come back. That'd be so fun. Let's do it again.
Megan, tell us about night 2. Just start with set 1, or whatever sticks out to you. But let's talk about it.
So night 2 is like you're hanging out with someone you really love to hang out with, and you've got 2 nights planned to hang out with them. You're really excited about it. And the first night, they're like, I'm going to bring over this friend to hang out with us. He's great. Like, he's so much fun. You're going to love him so much. We're going to have a great time. And you're like, okay, that's cool. Like, I like meeting new people. And he comes over and he's fucking great. And you have so much fun and he's great. And you see why your friend loves him. And you're like, yeah, he's awesome. That's great. And then the next night you're like, all right, we're hanging out again. It's just us. I can't wait. It's just going to be so fun. And then he says, actually, I'm bringing my friend over again. And you're like, okay, that's cool. But like, I just really wanted it to be just us tonight, you know? And that's kind of how it felt. Like, I felt even the crowd reaction to when Billy came out again was people were psyched, but it was much more muted. It wasn't this like blowout. It was kind of like, oh, like a couple people during the day at the HF Pod happy hour, which was awesome. A couple people were saying, do you think Billy's coming out again? Is stuff still here? And I was like, no way. That would just be kind of weird. And it did happen again. And I think there were moments that were awesome. I think they played some really cool songs in the first set. There was a lot of songs played all night, a lot of songs. And I felt like because they were rushing to get to that sit in again, there was like this rip-corded feeling to the moments that were good. That was, a little hard, like Oblivion and that Wave of Hope, I thought could have gone like 30 minutes. It was so good. But yeah, it was amazing moments. I thought, like Mountains in the Mist, just absolutely stunning. What's going through your mind? I'm so into that song. I'm so into hearing Fish play it and have it be a huge jam. And Bluegrass with Billy, great. But I kind of just wanted to like have a deep conversation with my good friend that night. I want to go deep.
RJ, what do you think?
Well, I was talking to my friend Jason after, and he came to both shows with us. I'm actually at his house right now. Really nice. I've known him since we were 2 years old. So
it's like really a nice big room that you're in there. A lot of
great. Such a nice guy.
Such a nice guy. We've known each other our entire lives, and he never really has heard Billy Strings before. So I think he came away being like both nights was like it was awesome to see more of that. Just see more of it and a different side of it that second night. Like, would I have traded those, that last 45 or 50 or 60 minutes for like a You Enjoy Myself and Fluffhead and like, another long jam at the end of the second set? Maybe, but I think that I feel like it's a kind of a divided, people are sort of divided. Just looking at the comments on Rob's piece, which he sort of said the same thing that we're saying, which is like, he said that night 2 felt a little like stiffer in terms of the music, which I thought was interesting to sit in. But it feels like people are sort of divided, like, yeah, more of this versus like, yeah, be with our core. I mean, I think there's like, obviously it's just really fun concerts. So there's no real complaining from my perspective, but I do wonder if that it felt a little more like they were just doing like a sound check, it was like, now we'll go into Death Don't Hurt Very Long, and then like, I don't know, let's play Evolve and Mountains in the Mist, and then let's like play Blaze On. And I thought that it felt a little bit less intentional than the first night, but
totally,
I don't know. I would have, if I had to, like, my preference would have been to keep that like second sit into 2 songs and then have them finish the 2-night run as Fish. But
yeah,
it was a really memorable second night. So I don't know, I'm a little bit split on it, but I understand the perspective, and I do think you're exactly right. And I think like Trey's enthusiasm is just, it's hard to like,
can't tamp it down.
You can't tamp it down.
I've got to imagine,
what did it play like from the couch?
Well, I've got to imagine that those 3 guys have given up on tamping it down. Like they just
totally
know, like, when he's on one, like just okay, that's
go.
what we're doing. No, I feel pretty much the exact same way you guys do. I think your analogy to like the hang with a friend you haven't seen in a while, and they bring someone and they gel and you have a great night. But like you do want that night of like, hey, you and I go way, way back, and we have all these inside jokes, and there's things I actually want to talk to you about. And like,
exactly.
let's do that on the second night. And I thought, when I was listening back the next morning after the first night, I was like, man, like, was this one of the best sit-ins that has ever happened? Like, when has an artist come out like Derek Trucks last year? I thought was amazing and really reinvented, like the fact that he played Golden Age, like that was a song out of left field.
Cool.
MoMA Dance was similar. Like it was cool to me that when they bring these artists on now, they're not necessarily saying Twist was similar with Bob Weir a couple of years ago. Like we're not necessarily saying like let's lean in and play your song. or your type of song. You play with us and show off what you bring to the table. And so Billy on MoMA turning that into like an Allman Brothers jam was so cool. And I also was thinking, similar to what you guys are saying, man, they have set themselves up so well that we got this very unique, cool sit in on night one. And night two, based on the way that this band has been playing, is going to blow some brains apart. Like your mind is going to be expanded in a really crazy way. And instead, you did get a feeling of almost like a New Year's Eve show that doesn't totally hook up, or a Halloween album that doesn't totally land, where like the rest of the show feels impacted by this and feels, you know, like everything is getting to that moment. It almost reminded me of how on like the Taboos tour, you'd get these first sets from Goose where they were just trying to prove themselves, and they're playing in an arena for the first time, and they were just giving it like 150%. Like, we are Goose, we are here, we are going to win you over, we are going to play these arenas ourselves in a matter of years. And then Tab would come on, and it would kind of just be like, here's a couple songs, here's another song, here's another song, okay, here comes, you know, Rick and Peter to play on this last song. And it had that feeling. That said, I did really, really, really love the micro jams in Wave of Hope and Light. I thought those were fascinating, really interesting. What's going through your mind? I am so stoked to hear that. I hope that they play that at Dick's. I think that you get this really risky songwriting approach from Trey that is way out of his comfort zone, and I'm totally here for it. I need to kind of parse down those lyrics and try to understand them a little bit better myself, but like I think it's a very intense
really
song.
Cool. It's
And the
very
versions from the Tab tour were really interesting. They all seem to lead to a cool jam. And I'm thinking that it's a song that, with just Fish playing it, will lead to something really fascinating, similar to like Life Saving Gun and Pillow Jets. Mountains in the Mist, probably my favorite ballad. They've been playing it a lot more of late, and I'm never going to complain about that. Give me that every run. That is like the perfect deep breath contemplation. Oh my God. And Billy on that was beautiful. And the encore, I think you got two back-to-back really cool encores where like, when was the last time, like 94, when we got such overt bluegrass influence into Fish shows? Like, that is such a Midwestern thing.
I know, it did feel like that.
Right. And like, you got that in the November 94 run where like it's just here, half the set is going to have bluegrass thrown into it. It felt like a throwback in that sort of standpoint, and it felt like a cool way to highlight these songs that Fish has carried on, even though they're not a bluegrass band at all. And then to have Billy end both nights with Carini and Frankenstein to like, you know, show to those in the know, hey, this guy can really play heavy music. It was a cool nod. So in wrap, I thought night one was incredible. I thought it was an amazing sit-in, one of the best that they've ever done. I thought it would have been a stronger run had they focused on Fish in night two, like you're saying, both of you. But at the same time, like, how do you say no to Trey? I don't know. I've never tried, you know?
No, I
have
think
tried.
you can.
Doesn't really work.
It doesn't work, right?
he takes things where he wants to take them, and it's almost always either fun or interesting or different and unique. So, you know, I don't want to take any of that away from him. I just want to say quickly, I think the what's going through your mind, I'm pretty sure that was part of the same sessions where the Lonely Trip stuff was recorded with.
Good call.
It's a Tom Scott Trey combo. And I think, man, looking back on that album, that's a really great album. There's a lot of really good. Right? The three of them together are just, you know, pretty amazing in terms of the songs they put together. Can I just say, we didn't really talk about this enough, I don't think, but Wednesday we had at Founders, as we talked about that part, but we had so many people show up to say hi to us and to hang out with us and to see us podcast on stage, which we didn't do. But
sorry, guys.
It was so great to see so many people just like appreciating what we do and appreciating, you know, all the time we put into this and putting their own time into hanging out with us and listening to us every week. And had a few people tell me, like, when you guys post a new episode, I want to listen right away. And there's really no greater compliment than that. So thanks for everybody for coming out. It was really fun.
That's always fun. It's always fun to meet people in the wild and be like, oh, there are faces to the people that love us. This is awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you're
Shout out
not just
here.
like saying this into the void.
Yeah.
Right. Shout out here to
Yeah.
Rachel for making the joke that we somehow couldn't make. You cannot say no to Trey. Maybe Mike can.
Maybe you can. But guess what?
Exactly.
They're
Well
still
played,
playing
Rachel.
tough head.
Yeah. I want to say too, I just wanted to say that, and I think I talked a little bit about this in my .NET review, but there was such a magic to going back to my hometown 30 years after I saw my first show and having them play there. And it just means so much to people when Phish plays these kind of smaller venues or off-market cities. And I just hope they continue to do that because it infuses such a wild energy into the show, because there's nothing like Phish coming to your hometown or your town or near you when they don't come there a lot. And I just absolutely loved that energy this week, and so appreciative that I got to do that, and in such an important year for me, being almost 30 years after my first show. So thanks Phish for doing that. And just, it was just really special to have everybody come up and say, a lot of people came up at Founders and were like, welcome home, and just have that vibe was awesome. And man, I just love the Midwest. I was sitting in traffic after I left the airport on Thursday, and I was like, why the fuck do I live here? Michigan is so nice. So thanks Michigan. Good vibes.
Rachel was on Zillow on Wednesday afternoon looking at houses in Grand Rapids. She's like,
Grand
Michigan
Rapids
moved
is
here.
so awesome.
It's a great place.
Last time I went back to Wisconsin, I felt the exact same way. Just right the lake life in that part of the country. And I mean, home to what, a fifth of the fresh water on Earth. Like,
yeah,
real estate value is only going to go up there, guys. All right, it's only one direction as this whole planet warms. So if you want the vibes, get there fast.
Brian, I think we should do a quick counterfactual situation here, which is always fun because it's sort of meaningless. But what I was saying to Megan in the middle of the second set,
we're talking about 46 days again.
Oh my God.
On Wednesday, I was saying that, like, during light and during the kind of the ripcord into Caspian and then the light and the Loving Cup, I was saying to Megan, we're going to get a Piper, a twist, and like we're going to get 6-minute versions of 3 songs in a row and then a closer. And I do wonder if he hadn't come out, if that would have been the second set, because it felt like it was going that direction. But then now knowing that he was coming out, they were like a little rushed in that sense. But it didn't feel like they had a lot of focus on the jamming like after that Wave of Hope. But maybe it was just because Billy was coming out. But I could have seen Wednesday turning into like, Piper, twist, 2001,
9-minute
like
songs.
Yeah, Cavern, sort of like to end it with like with something at the very end.
Yeah, I could totally have seen. I mean, it almost like a reset show. Sometimes it happens, and you get more energy and more songs and less of the exploration. And you take a chance every time you go to see this band. Like, we've all seen this band dozens, if not hundreds of times, and we've listened to hundreds and hundreds of shows. Like, some shows, like Deer Creek Sunday night, everything just aligns, and other shows it doesn't, but there's still a really good reason to continue seeing them, and it's still a ton of fun. I think that Wednesday was definitely, like, to what you're saying, impacted by we're going to get to Billy. I mean, it's a long second set. It's almost like an hour 40 minutes. So like they pushed that as far as they possibly could from a curfew standpoint. But also, I think you're absolutely right, RJ. They were kind of due for that sort of reset show. And going into, we now have 7 shows left on this tour, with 4 of them being consumed by the festival, which will add another layer to what those shows mean, if you will. Plus, then we have Dick's after that. Like, I think, to summarize, I would be very, very thrilled if I went to see Phish in Grand Rapids and I got what I got, because I think I got something very unique, something special, something very soulful.
Yeah.
Plus one jam, or 2 jams, the Ruby Waves and Moma Dance, that I think have a ton of re-listenable value for years to come. But I also understand why someone would come away from those shows being like, I wanted that night with Phish. Like, there's 2 sides to this, and I totally get them.
I think if it was your only Phish shows you were seeing over the summer, you'd probably really feel like that.
Yes. Just like
It's
seeing
so much
Alpine Dicks 2022, where you're just like, I had a good time, but I also know that Atlantic City happened a weekend earlier, and that was it.
Ugh,
I also
who
know that
knew?
Bethel happened.
Atlantic City.
I also know that Hartford third quarter happened. Like, I know what happened on this tour, and I know what I saw.
Still not over it.
I'm never gonna be over it.
Still not bitter at all. Not bitter at all. Brian's fine about that.
Totally fine about it.
I was just thinking that we have another comment here. I wanted that night with Fish. That's I think a common theme. I was looking back at the first set of Wednesday, which kind of got overshadowed. There was a nice Oblivion jam, but besides that, it was sort of a forgettable set. I'm not sure. I don't know if I need to go back to that set.
No.
I think the Oblivion is like on the border of being great. I think it was cool that they threw a song that has always been associated with second sets in my brain into the early part of the show and jammed it. That's kind of happened quite a bit this tour so far, like Wave of Hope from Great Woods, Disease from Great Woods, Golden Age from Mohegan. There's other examples I'm forgetting right now, but like throwing a second set song into the early part of the show and stretching it out is a cool shakeup of the set list. I thought the 555 and Ether Edge had cool little micro jams associated with them, but I also agree with you wholeheartedly. Like, a lot of these songs are pretty much in the rotation. We're looking at like 7 to 11 show gaps on most of them. So it's stuff that most people are hearing regularly, and not a ton of new ideas added outside of those 3 songs.
Yeah.
Nice, like About to Run though, where Trey just got to absolutely just destroy. But I always
good placement for it. More of those like late first set. That's a man.
One of the only times that I take videos these days at Fish shows is when Trey's soloing on About to Run, because I think it's just like I think you see something with that you don't see with anything else.
Have you ever considered that like About to Run and 46 Days kind of feel like cousins?
No, not at all.
It's like the angry cousin. Thank you. It's like a Woodshed song. It's the kind of song you'd be like, plug in, crack a light beer, and let's fucking rip.
But 46 Days is like the afternoon version, like the late afternoon, and then About to Run is like it's dark now, and now we're like listening to the deep 70s classic rock.
I think they're totally different.
About to Run is the most Crazy Horse song that Trey's ever written, and it feels like it feels like an outtake of Tonight's the Night or On the Beach.
See, I feel like I was telling Jason when they started, it's like him channeling Hendrix. I mean, that's to me, it's or Neil Young, or take your pick of any amazing shredding guitarist in their peak. Let's listen to one voicemail before we wrap up. Is that cool with you guys?
Let's do it.
Hey guys, this is Ryan from Alexandria, Virginia, longtime fan of the pod. Just want to thank you all for the great insights you provide, not only about current tours, but about the vast history of the band. And I especially want to shout out Jonathan and thank him for the idea to play guitar along with jams as a focused listening exercise. I did that with the St. Louis Tweezer. It really helped me get deeper into what was happening musically, how they navigate the transitions together, the different sections, how the keys change, how much Mike seemed to be driving a lot of the ideas in that particular jam. So highly recommend that practice to the musicians out there. Looking forward to attending my first Fish festival ever next weekend. Keep up the good work, guys.
Look at that.
That's awesome. Jonathan will love to hear that.
Yeah. And
totally I want that practicing. That's fun. That's really, really like you definitely hear and feel the music differently.
I just want to say that we do have a festival coming up. And also I didn't get to all of the voicemails. I'm really sorry, but we, thank you guys for sending them. Keep sending them. We have a festival coming up, Megan. We have 3 shows at Bethel and then 4 shows at the festival, which feels like it's really kind of set up for something pretty wild over the next, week.
This is like a heady week we're coming into. Like Bethel is so heady, and then a festival. This is going to be killer.
Yeah, what do you guys have to say? What's a final thought either about the festival, about the next week? What are you expecting? What are you hoping for? How are you feeling?
Well, it's Northeastern Fish, and they're playing extremely well, and they have a festival for the first time in 9 years. I feel great, RJ. That is, that is the way that man. They've played 2 runs at Bethel historically. Yeah, 2011 and 2022. Both are outstanding. The Set Your Soul Free from Bethel 2022 was my favorite jam of that year. 528 2011. If you have not gone back and listened to that in some time, man, there were some vibes there, dudes. Like, that is a vibey, awesome show. One of the best early 3.0 shows ever played. I don't know what to expect from the festival. I'll be completely honest. The last time we had a festival, it may have been my favorite Fish experience I've ever had. Magnaball was special. I just came across a picture of us there, RJ, and we are just like beaming.
Yeah.
There's not a single gray hair in sight on me. It is like, whoo, great time, good vibes. And then obviously we know what happened with Curveball. I think, to connect this to Magnaball just in the lead up, I think we all knew that Magnaball was going to be really special because the band was playing extremely well. That is summer 2015. We just gushed about it on our top tours list. I'll make an extremely bold claim here that goes along with a expectation. This tour would make that top 25 list if we revised it. I think that this is one of the best tours that we have heard the band play. I think it is up there with with spring 23 and with fall 21 in terms of 4.0 and in terms of the best of 3.0. And when they're playing that way and they have a tour and they have a festival on the horizon, just sit back and enjoy this, man. Like, this is the good stuff. This is the good stuff.
Wow. Megan, before I let you talk, I have to say that we got a couple comments of things we missed. We missed talking about the driver from second night Grand Rapids, which several people
great. One of my favorite moments of that set, for sure.
So, and Ben Gardner is throwing a late flag for not giving Monsters from Deer Creek proper respect.
So I wanted to jump in with that, but sometimes you don't want to interrupt people. But yeah, perfect placement. Loved it. Agreed.
Megan, what do you got?
Well, first I want to just say that Jonathan Hart says Brian still looks 30. So there you go, Brian.
It's true.
Okay.
It's true.
I definitely don't feel 30. But
well, you're looking at it, so there you go. That's all that matters.
Thank you.
No, I'm excited for this week. I mean, Bethel, I don't know. I have really great memories of 2 years ago. Brian, I think your brother was wearing some incredible outfits in Bethel last time. So I think Bethel it's like a hippie
I wear
paradise.
Flannel. He wears great outfits. That's the way
wears
that he
really
breaks
great
down.
outfits. It's awesome. I can appreciate that. But yeah, it's going to be great weekend. It's a little rainy tonight, which is always kind of vibey, and then really beautiful for the rest of the days, hopefully. And it's just going to be nice. I think they're going to get a monster jam because there's a lot of pent up energy, I think, going into this post sit-in. And like Brian said, I have no idea what to expect. This is my first festival. I'm over the moon that I get to do it and that my family's okay with me escaping during camp pickup weekend. And I can't wait. I think Trey's been talking it up a lot, which is exciting. It just means he's going to bring it. And because of the way they're playing, I'm thrilled. I can't wait. And I just hope I get to hear my longest jam ever. I only have to beat 30 minutes.
What is the longest jam you've heard?
12, 30, 19. It's actually 35, I think.
36, right? Something like that.
Yeah.
Oh, that tweezer. Okay.
Yeah. So that's my longest jam I've ever heard.
Wow.
So I just want to beat that.
I think the odds are in your favor that you will beat that.
Me too, right?
A festival?
Yeah.
4 nights?
Yeah.
I mean, you're at least going to get a secret set, which is going to be at least 50 minutes.
But does that count? Because that's not a song.
I think it counts. But, what do I know? What do I know?
Okay.
I don't run any brackets. I just think things count.
Yeah. We'll have to ask for the listeners to tell us, does it count? I don't know.
Okay.
It's whatever you want.
Okay.
If you don't want to count the drive-in jam as one of the best jams of 3.0, that is something you're going to have to square with yourself. I can't justify that for you, you know?
It just seems like it fits in a different category when it's like a special secret set. Like I have no doubt
I
that's gonna be
guess.
insane.
Sure.
Yeah.
It's in front of audience.
But there's also like I'm talking about that feeling when a song is pushing these big numbers and you're watching it push. Whereas a secret set, you know it's going to jam the whole time and you know it's going to go long. But if you're in the middle of a set 2, say on like Saturday night at the festival, and all of a sudden this song you're listening to hits 38 minutes, 40, you know, then it's like I want that feeling of like, holy shit, it's happening.
I totally get what you're saying, and I also you're absolutely right. You're 100% right. There is a vibe to that is very different from like the we are here to hear completely improvisational music. I am going to start incorporating pushing big numbers every time Fish crosses 20 minutes. So keep an eye out in your text threads for hashtag pushing big numbers, because that is you just incorporated like a football stat and like football phrase into Fish.
I did?
That I am 1,000% here for. Yeah, that's like you know, like we're like ESPN puts the Chiron on like. Megan's pushing big numbers, you know, like we're talking like a big stat that just happened at this run and why, you know, you're trying to justify why this was so great. So pushing big numbers. We want you guys to do that, Fish.
Hashtag pushing big numbers. You heard it here.
You got to hashtag it. This has been an amazing tour and it's going to continue. Obviously, I'm so excited for everyone who gets to go to Bethel this weekend and the festival next week. Wow. What an awesome time to be alive, guys. I think we're going to come back and maybe recap Bethel before the festival.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we should.
Several people asked me if I was going to the festival, at least probably 30 over the past 2 days, and I told everyone the same thing, which is that I don't know yet. So maybe I'll see you there. Maybe I'll see you there on Saturday. I don't think I'll know until Saturday morning, but maybe I'll see you guys.
I hope so. I really fucking hope so.
I love so much about this. I had figured you were totally out. I love that you're still thinking this. This is great stuff.
I feel like that says it's going to happen. I'm just going to say
it's good for the story. You know, it's a good ongoing narrative.
Exactly.
I've seen 2 shows with RJ that were unplanned and last minute, and both are 2 of my favorite shows I've ever seen.
Wow.
And then we saw one show that we planned for months to see, and RJ saw his best David Bowie that he's ever seen.
Best David Bowie ever.
Yep. Get ready to get flooded again. You are asking for it so bad.
Yeah. Really good spot here right in this tour though. I think you're right, RJ. Excited.
All right, guys. Well, we will see you back here. I think we're going to recap Bethel on Monday, so we'll see you all then. And until then, everyone have a great weekend, and thanks everybody for hanging out with us.
Thanks, everybody.
Peace, guys. Enjoy the weekend.